Imagine being so spectacularly bad at your job that people debate whether you're the biggest failure of the year, only to lose that dishonor to your boss. That's the situation Rachel Reeves finds herself in, and honestly, it's the most British thing I've ever heard. Welcome back to UK Political Insight, where today we're diving into the absolute roasting that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves received on TalkTV, complete with accusations of cowardice, incompetence, and a Plank of the Year award that went to Starmer himself. If you thought your annual performance review was rough, wait until you hear about this. We've got fury, we've got facts, and we've got a chancellor who apparently can't be sacked because her boss knows that if she goes down, he's going with her. It's like a political murder-suicide pact, except everyone's already dead and they just haven't noticed yet. Let's get into it. Right, so the scene is TalkTV, and Candace Holdsworth is absolutely letting rip about Rachel Reeves. For those who don't know, Reeves is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which means she's in charge of the economy, the budget, and generally making sure Britain doesn't financially implode. How's that going, you ask? Well, according to Holdsworth and pretty much everyone with a functioning calculator, not great. Actually, worse than not great. Catastrophically terrible would be more accurate. Holdsworth came out swinging with a list of failures so comprehensive it could be a university dissertation on how not to run an economy. Let's break down what Holdsworth said because it's quite the indictment. First up, growth. Reeves hasn't achieved it. Now, this is particularly embarrassing because economic growth was literally the main promise of her November budget. The entire thing was positioned as a growth budget, the plan that would get Britain moving again after years of stagnation. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. The economy is flatlining like a patient in a medical drama who's definitely not making it to season 2. When your one job is to create growth and you comprehensively fail to do so, that's not a minor hiccup. That's the entire foundation of your role crumbling beneath you. Then there's inflation, still going up, still terrible, still making everyone's money worth less every time they check their bank balance. Inflation is supposed to be the thing you control as Chancellor. It's literally economics 101. When inflation is running hot, you implement policies to cool it down. When it's too low, you stimulate the economy. Reeves seems to have discovered a third option: do nothing effective and watch as prices keep climbing while people's wages can't keep up. It's like being a firefighter who shows up to a burning building and decides to see what happens if you just wait it out. Spoiler, the building burns down. Holdsworth also pointed out that no new jobs have been created under Reeves's watch. Think about that for a second. The entire economy, all the various sectors, all the government initiatives supposedly designed to boost employment, and the net result is 0 new jobs. That's not just failing to improve things, that's treading water while everyone else is swimming. In an economy that needs to be creating hundreds of thousands of jobs to keep up with population growth and to replace jobs lost to automation and structural change, creating 0 new jobs is an achievement in itself, just not the kind you want to put on your CV. And then, the cherry on top of this disaster sundae, Reeves has broken every manifesto promise. Every single one. Now, politicians breaking manifesto promises is about as shocking as rain in Britain. We're all used to it. But there's usually at least some plausible deniability, some excuse about changing circumstances or unexpected challenges. Reeves has managed to break promises so comprehensively that even the usual political spin can't hide it. When you promise not to raise certain taxes and then immediately raise those taxes, when you promise growth and deliver stagnation, when you promise fiscal responsibility and deliver chaos, people notice, and they're not happy about it. Holdsworth summed it up perfectly when she said it was failure from top to bottom. That's not hyperbole, that's just accurate description. There isn't a single metric by which Reeves can claim success. Not growth, not inflation, not employment, not fiscal stability, not public confidence. It's a clean sweep of failure, a comprehensive demolition of competence. And yet, she's still in office, which brings us to the really juicy part of Holdsworth's rant. Will she be there for another Christmas, Holdsworth asked, before answering her own question with a statement that cuts right to the heart of this government's dysfunction. Because Keir Starmer is a bit too afraid to get rid of her. He knows that if she goes, he goes. Let that sink in for a moment. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is apparently too scared to sack his failing Chancellor because doing so would implicitly admit that his government's entire economic strategy has been a disaster. It's like being the captain of the Titanic and refusing to acknowledge the iceberg because that would mean you should have turned left. This is what's known in political circles as being trapped. Keir Starmer appointed Reeves, he backed her budget, he defended her decisions. He owns her failures as much as she does. If he sacks her now, he's admitting that his judgment was catastrophically wrong, that his government's central policy has failed, and that he doesn't have a clue how to fix it. But if he keeps her, he looks weak, indecisive, and complicit in her ongoing disasters. It's like a lose-lose situation, and Starmer has somehow managed to choose the worst of both options by doing nothing and hoping the problem goes away. Newsflash, it's not going away. If anything, it's getting worse. Now, the context for all this fury is that Candace Holdsworth had nominated Reeves for Plank of the Year, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's the TalkTV annual award for the biggest political failure, the most spectacular incompetence, the person who embodies everything wrong with British politics. And Holdsworth pointed out that Reeves had been nominated the year before too. Think about that. This is someone who was such a disaster in her first year that she got nominated for Plank of the Year and then came back for a second year and was so much worse that she got nominated again. That's not just consistency, that's dedication to failure. Holdsworth reflected on the previous year, saying, "We were all very skeptical that she was going to get any of her objectives done, and I think we were proven right." There's something almost satisfying in being vindicated in your pessimism, isn't there? When you predict disaster and disaster duly arrives, there's a grim satisfaction in being able to say, "I told you so." Except in this case, being right means the entire country is suffering the consequences of Reeves' incompetence, so it's hard to feel too triumphant about it. Then the discussion moved to what the panel called lies about the supposed black hole in the country's finances. For those who need a refresher, when Labour came into office, Reeves immediately claimed the Tories had left a massive black hole in the public finances that nobody knew about. This became the justification for everything that followed, the tax rises, the spending cuts, and the general austerity light that's been implemented. The problem is, this claim was always suspect. The state of public finances isn't a secret. The Office for Budget Responsibility publishes detailed reports. The Treasury knows exactly what's coming in and going out. The idea that Labour discovered some hidden disaster that literally everyone else had missed was always implausible. One of the panelists, Chloe Dobbins, accused Reeves of making that story up to justify tax increases. She branded Reeves the queen of lying and pointed out that the OBR had essentially exposed her by releasing financial records that contradicted the black hole narrative. When the independent fiscal watchdog is essentially calling you out, that's not a good look. It's like claiming you're broke when the bank statements show you've got thousands in the account. People can see through it, and they're not impressed. Fellow panelist Peter Barnes then added that Reeves is bad at lying because she keeps getting caught, which is possibly the most damning thing you can say about a politician. Look, we all know politicians spin. They present information in the most favorable light, they emphasize what helps them and downplay what doesn't. That's politics. But there's an art to it, a level of competence required. You need to be able to construct a narrative that's at least plausible, that can't be immediately disproven by anyone with Google and 5 minutes to spare. Reeves apparently lacks even that basic skill. She makes claims that are easily debunked, tells stories that don't hold up to scrutiny, and then acts surprised when people call her out. It's amateur hour, but with the entire British economy at stake. Chloe fumed at the lack of humility Reeves has, noting that she refuses to hold her hands up and explain why she had to change her mind on previous manifesto pledges. This is actually a really important point. People can accept that circumstances change, that policies need to adapt, that what you promised in opposition might not be deliverable in government. What they can't accept is being treated like idiots. When you break a promise and then pretend you never made it or claim circumstances forced your hand when they clearly didn't, people see through it. A simple, "we got this wrong, here's why, here's what we're doing instead," would go much further than the current approach of deny, deflect, and hope everyone forgets. Rafe Hadel-Manku jumped in with perhaps the best line of the whole segment. Even if she doesn't get Plank of the Year, you know it's going to be on her CV. That's a kind of savage political commentary that makes you wince and laugh at the same time. Because he's right, Reeves' time as Chancellor is going to be studied in economics courses as an example of what not to do. Future politicians will look at her decisions and use them as cautionary tales. Remember Rachel Reeves? Let's make sure we don't do that. That's going to be her legacy, a warning to others. But here's where the story takes an even more delicious turn. Despite all the fury, despite the comprehensive case against her, despite being nominated for Plank of the Year based on an absolutely stellar record of failure, Reeves didn't win. The award went to someone even worse, and that someone was her boss, Keir Starmer. Host Kevin O'Sullivan made the announcement with appropriate fanfare, saying they had to choose the overarching, massive, predominant plank of the year, and that could only be our pathetic, useless, calamitous Prime Minister, two-tier Sir Keir Starmer. Two-tier Keir, for those unfamiliar, is the nickname that stuck to Starmer based on the perception that he applies different standards to different groups. Two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier governance, the idea that there's one rule for some people and another rule for everyone else. It's a nickname that's gained traction because it encapsulates a lot of the frustration people feel about this government. Whether you think it's fair or not, the fact that it's stuck tells you something about how Starmer is perceived. O'Sullivan's description of Starmer as pathetic, useless, calamitous is harsh, but it reflects a growing sentiment. Starmer came into office with huge expectations. He was supposed to be the competent one, the serious statesman who would restore integrity to government after the chaos of Johnson and Truss years.